Today we're going to be talking about South of Midnight and the IGN review. We know how IGN has been lately, and I'm interested in seeing what they give it, as well as, of course, what they say. Now, with South of Midnight, we've been hearing a lot about average gameplay, weak story. You have a very decent setting. The setting looks pretty cool, but you have spongy enemies that are limited, and that leads to really repetitive gameplay. The clunky platforming is in there. I mean, that's exactly how it looked in the previews as well. And of course, you have the sweet Baby Ink involvement where you almost have a Kimbalair insert. Okay, she inserted herself in this game, it looks like. And of course, we have accusations of a race swap because of a previous model that we saw that was clearly not what we got today or even close. So let's get into all this and see what IGN has to say right after you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
JayViper is awesome. He's so good looking. He's got the crown in all.
Okay, so first things first is I realized that this is 16 minutes. So I just went and checked, and there's like this whole interview thing that they're doing at the end here, it looks like. So what that led me to do was actually look at their previous reviews. So the last two reviews before this was the first Berserker Kazan and Inzoi, and I checked to see if this is a new format. No, it's not. So this is something special they're doing for South of Midnight. I'm interested to see why they did that and to hear what they have to say inside the interview. I don't understand that at all. Anyway, here we go.
There's an early chapter in South of Midnight where our protagonist Hazel is coming to grips with her newfound powers. It's an important tone setter because it's representative of what developer Compulsion Games...
There's that animation. If you aren't familiar with this game, there's like a stop motion animation you see on anything. It's like, it looks like very skippy. This is purposeful, and I don't really know why they did it other than to maybe get around some limitations with the hardware or with the game or something, because it doesn't look very good. I don't like it. But, I mean, you know, it's a style choice, I guess. The actual design of the game looks interesting, but the animation does not.
Is trying to do throughout a concise 12-hour runtime. Mythical creatures straight out of folklore from the American South drive a human story that stands as a fantastic example of how the local is universal, with the grand tapestry of that region's culture and history wrapped around an otherwise fairly straightforward action-adventure game. While there are aspects of South of Midnight that aren't necessarily groundbreaking, it's all uplifted by a clear and well-executed artistic vision that makes it one of the more memorable Xbox console exclusives of this generation.
Okay, so this is a memorable ride. All right, okay. For it's 12 hours, though? We said the runtime's about 12 hours. A little short, but I mean, it just depends. If the game's good, it doesn't matter.
My salvation.
A talking fish? Nope. Ain't no way.
Oh, Weaver like you must have seen stranger things than me.
Hazel has the ability to manipulate the magical threads of an ethereal realm. That's both the weapon she uses to defeat evil spirits and creatures, and the tool she relies on to piece together the tragic pasts of her neighbors and forebears in her hometown of Prospero.
So the gameplay of this, like you'll like make ladders or ramps or things. The actual gameplay of that is really kind of basic. The way they did it is like it creates this white like ramp, right, that you just run up. And there's not a huge difference between it telling you, hey, you can make a ramp here, and the ramp itself. So it can lead to some like funky situations too.
The fictional
when you're
place, roughly based on Louisiana,
there's a lot of
that's
white
deeply
streaks in
rooted
the game.
The very
too.
real experience of the South. Traces of its dark history litter the dilapidated houses after a treacherous flood, contrasting with the remnants of communities that struggled to survive in those harsh conditions.
So I'm the last person left here.
These touches provide a rich context for South of Midnight, and it's working within it to unravel a larger story about the pain, guilt, and trauma many of us experience in our own family lives.
Bad people always prey on those who stand out.
From a gameplay...
There we go. So we've got racism right away. Okay, with the bad white guys are there. All right, so that's clearly a thing in the game. The other thing, again, is the animation. I can't get over. I hate it. I hate the animation.
South of Midnight
That's
is
a personal
rather
thing.
simple.
Can't stand
You're
it.
ushered through fairly linear
There it is.
levels
You see
that
the white
alternate
stuff?
between platforming and combat encounters, with a few journal entries and upgrade points to collect hidden off the beaten path.
It just looks
If
so
you've
bad. I
scaled
feel like they could have done
cliffsides
so
in
much
Uncharted, God of War, or Tomb Raider, its frequent climbing sections will feel pretty familiar. But with the authentic sights and sounds of the American South at the forefront, the detailed environments and beautiful vistas create a strong sense of place.
So one thing this review is doing, I'm noticing, is they have an overlay of the music in game It's like the Louisiana music. It's terrible. It's not good. The music in this game is largely poor. It's almost stereotypical. I noticed like that. It's a stereotypical music genre that they put into the game where I feel like they didn't put actually effort into it. They were like, just make it sound Louisiana, but it's annoying.
Almost there.
There isn't really much to figure out per se, as you use Hazel's weaving powers to clear obstacles or zip across the
That's
air,
really
but there
awful.
is an enjoyable momentum as you're funneled from one fight to the next.
Yeah, her animations too. If you watched her animations through here, I remember Xbox is pushing this. This is Microsoft. They paid for this, okay? It really should look better than this, I
To
think. Like
figure out,
these
per se,
animations
as you
are
use Hazel's
just
weaving
so
powers to clear
weird
obstacles
looking.
or zip across the air, but there is an enjoyable momentum as you're funneled from one fight to the next.
I just feel like it's all poor.
Combat
And
is
you'll notice
contained to
the combat is also like jank, but that's due to the animation that they decided to go with, where it's that stop motion animation, so it creates these like jerky movements and it's constant.
distinct arenas across each level, with the idea being that Haints, the demonic manifestations of people's pain and sorrow, plague all of Prospero, and Hazel
You'll see
is the
them
one
all
who
move
can
in the
cleanse
same way,
that
see?
corruption. It's a comfortable, if predictable, cadence that doesn't really wear thin since it's judicious about when you actually have to fight. This helps South of Midnight not feel repetitive, and I genuinely look forward to each combat encounter.
So what he just said is actually completely the opposite of the resounding reviewers or what they're saying. Like the combat is one of the weak points in this game, and the enemies are super repetitive. There's only a few enemy types in the game. So the entire game, the 12 hours, so he says, you're really having a lot of the same fights. And even the boss fights, apparently, are largely you have the boss, but then you're dealing with the waves of enemies also. So it becomes fighting these same enemies that you've been fighting the entire game again in the boss fights, because I guess you just need to add more things in boss fights because you can't just have a boss and fight a boss. Which, again, it can be good if you do it right, but if it's the same enemy again and again, you're always fighting, this becomes repetitive. Like the same
Similar
fight
to the
all the time.
platforming, these fights aren't really pushing any boundaries, but Hazel's attack combos and spells have a certain chunkiness that I really enjoy.
So instead of it being clunky, he's decided to use chunky and he likes it. Okay. So one thing, this game is out in a way, like, so if you pay extra, and I'll show this to you, there are people playing this right now. The South of Midnight Premium Edition is $50. And you can pre-purchase it, of course, $40. But if you get this, you can play right now, $50. Okay, this is on Steam. So if anyone's really looking forward to it, you can go and buy it on Steam right now. What I have seen is that people are opting to not do this. Over here, they had a peak of 496 yesterday on Steam. Now, I know this is on Game Pass, but it is not released on Game Pass. And a lot of people like to talk about how these numbers don't matter if it's on Game Pass, because if it's on Game Pass, people aren't going to buy the game. Well, that's not true, and I've debunked this many times before. If people want a game, they will buy a game. They will buy it on Steam because Steam is the main platform for PC. So the fact that this isn't happening, and a lot of these people are influencers, by the way, because influencers are being given Steam keys. This tells me that the demand for this game is very low, which is a bad sign for South of Midnight. Granted, they're going to tell us 2 million players engaged because it's all about Game Pass to them. They're not going to tell us the sales, but we're going to see the sales, and I don't think they're going to be very good. This game's going to suffer in sales, but again, with Microsoft, it really isn't about the sales to them. It's about the message and pushing that message. As we know, they become very DEI heavy, and this really is, they don't care. They'll make their money somewhere else. So this game's going to be a commercial failure, but you're never going to hear anything negative because Microsoft seems to be collecting these types of studios and creating a wall around them to give them a safe place to release their slop. And this game is slop. Everything I've seen about this game, it is very just run-of-the-mill, okay, it's a game, but why are we doing this? And then, of course, with the race swap, which does seem to have happened, and of course, Sweet Baby Inc. involvement, to me, there's really no reason to go and buy this game. And there's no reason to race the Game Pass to play it. But this IGN guy is talking about how satisfying
Dodging
he is.
while cycling through a short list of fun abilities like a stun weave and a grappling strand, while finishing things off with a glory kill-esque finisher, makes the basics satisfying.
Yikes. This guy's really
Paints come in
glazing the
various
game.
forms that give encounters enough variety.
Look
Some are
at the
swift and
animation, it's
pesky,
so bad.
while others are hulking beasts.
You can see it
There are
right
a few
there.
boss fights to heighten the stakes with a bit of spectacle as well, but they mostly tend to highlight the formulaic nature of
I just
combat
don't know why
by
they did
relying
that
on
animation.
derivative versions of mechanics that
Like
you've
this,
seen
this looks cool. Like this boss looks cool.
elsewhere.
Gotta get to him.
It does. But look at the animation, you can see it.
South of Midnight's
Even as he's
foundation is
down.
perfectly competent, but it's everything else around it that makes it truly stand out, grabbing you with its painterly character designs and striking stop-motion animation style.
No, it's not striking. It's terrible. Come on, dude.
The unconventional choice helps special moments pop during cutscenes, although it isn't really noticeable in the action. And if you find it too jarring, you can disable the stop-motion effect altogether.
Oh, thank
Even
God.
without it, the details in characters' faces and the superb voice acting feel like the real reward chapter after chapter.
I ain't no boo hag.
That was
Well,
really
maybe I-
strange animation. Like just the way she
Boo
walked.
hag.
Well, maybe 8.
The specific accents and vernacular come across authentically, to the point where I didn't think twice about them since it all sounded so familiar to me as someone who was born in the region.
Explains why you dress like that.
Whatever.
Southern Gothic folklore hasn't really been explored in games like this, and South of Midnight showcases how rich it is by bringing these tales to life in ways we rarely see. Mythical creatures embody the pain and suffering of townsfolk, melding broader urban myths with the struggles of specific characters throughout the story. Figures like Florida's legendary alligator Two-Toe Tom shows up as a boss, while the shape-shifting Rougarou from Cajun Tales takes a form I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, because they made it up.
And Alabama's Huggin' Molly has a fascinating reinterpretation. It's the sort of amalgamation of folklore
It
that's
is interesting how much time and effort they put into the boss's design, and this is what they gave the protagonist.
wonderful to see as someone who is familiar with some of it, but done in a way that's still inviting for the uninitiated. South of Midnight acknowledges the region's real history in subtle and effective ways as well,
The region's real history, but it's really fiction in a way. What is he talking about? Their real history?
recognizing that remnants of slavery in the Reconstruction era persist in our modern world, and that trauma can carry across generations. Passing by
Oh, wow. There it is. The wokeness. The wokeness. I'll play that again. This is all about being marginalized. This is the sweet baby death kiss to the game.
in
This.
subtle and effective ways as well, recognizing that remnants of slavery in the Reconstruction era persist in our modern world,
Wow.
and that trauma can carry across generations. Passing by abandoned houses along the bayou, with
Trauma.
eviction notices from greedy
Wow, this dude is all in. He's all in on the garbage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
land grabbers reminds you of the rough and unfair economic conditions many of these communities face. But things like this are woven into its main themes
Holy
about the
shit.
complicated dynamics of family, the best and worst part
Oh, yeah. You know all that storyline right there. He's like, all right, I'm adding a point for this, and I'm adding a point for this. What
that
is
can
this
come from
score
our
going to
blood
be?
relations.
You grown.
It's been a while.
With her weaving powers, Hazel can peer into the past through visions recreated using the threads that make up the grand tapestry, the flow of all life and memory. From tragic displays of unconditional love to the horrors of the abuse our own kin can inflict on us, South of Midnight focuses on the idea of family being something we either embrace or have to reckon with. So there's a lot I love about the stories in South of Midnight, but I do wish they were told with a little more finesse. The larger plot is missing some necessary connective tissue at times, and it's easy to lose track of why Hazel's journey leads from one thing to another. Characters and narrative threads are sometimes introduced as quickly as they're resolved through
Just so you know, again, Sweet Baby Inc. very heavily involved in this narrative. Why is it disjointed? Because they're involved. These people cannot write a story. They only focus on the marginalization and getting their whole point across. It has nothing to do with making good story. They have proven this again and again. Whenever they get involved, they cannot write. They keep getting hired. And I also don't want anyone to forget that the original voice actress for Hazel was fired for not sounding black enough. And I'm not kidding. She was removed from the company for not sounding black enough because she's voice acting. They replaced her with who's playing Hazel today.
Story beats that feel a little segmented in ways that aren't entirely clear. There are parts of Hazel's life I'm still wondering about that get brought up as important pieces to the story, and I wish I could have tied those loose ends together before the credits rolled.
Well, the wrong people wrote the story, dude. Sorry.
Enough of my hospitality.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You sorry?
I need to find Huggin' Molly.
Do you?
Why didn't she take you?
And it's not all swamps and basins out there. It's not just Bourbon Street in New Orleans or a politically hostile place for marginalized folks. Those are all a part of it for sure.
Oh my god, yeah. So this is a woke game, straight up. The guy can't stop talking about it. And again, I just remind people, this is a Canadian company writing things for a Louisiana setting. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know how that can be authentic.
But I like that we have a story that shows that people live here, and they struggle in ways that are both universal and unique to the region.
This is grown folks' business. You a child. This ain't for you.
It also understands that hurt people, and knows it's not an excuse for the terrible things that pain may drive people to do. It's a bit of a trope in stories that talk about mental health, but there's still a truth to it. And South of Midnight has its own take by focusing on this concept with regards to family.
I'm just trying to find my mama.
Perhaps my favorite touch, however, is how it uses its fantastic soundtrack to tie everything together
come on,
thematically.
dude. The soundtrack is core in this game.
Left traps out for him.
With a mix of bluegrass, blues, jazz, and American folk music that weave in harmonizing choirs, church organs, or banjos and fiddles, it's a showcase of how important music has always been to the region. Big story moments are built up through songs written as if a narrator was walking you through what the characters felt and experienced in their life.
Okay.
You answer for what you do.
Yeah, no, this is awful. Like, I can appreciate good bluegrass. This sucks. It's so
And they're queued up at just the right time to
stereotypical.
propel you forward as you're playing. It got me in my feelings at times because there's not much I love more than a fantastic soundtrack used as an effective
They
storytelling
got him in
device.
his feelings.
He was my brother.
He feels seen.
He saw things different. He was my shame.
It's
Many folks from
awful.
the
It sounds like it's written by Suno, straight up.
South have a complicated relationship with it. Born in Mississippi and adopting parts of the culture and vernacular as my family and I move throughout the country, it'll always have a special place in my heart. I appreciate having a game that helped me reconnect with those roots in a way that was whimsical and harrowing in equal measure. And that's the sort of value South of Midnight has beyond just being a good action adventure.
This
game. It's
dude.
worth playing for a little virtual tour of the South you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Well, nice duds.
Verdict, here we
Been
go.
promoted at the Piggly Wiggly.
This guy's all in.
Floods come to the
All
cottage.
that
South of Midnight
glazing.
is a straightforward but well-executed action-adventure game on the surface with a simple but satisfying mix of combat and platforming.
Oh,
It's
jeez,
focused.
you're telling us that there's nothing that is boring, that the gameplay is boring, get real. Simple, basic, blah, 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 limited enemies.
Filling out its
There's
12-hour
sponges.
runtime nicely without ever dragging or relying on unnecessary padding.
Well, it
Beyond
can't
those
drag if
basics,
it's 12
however,
hours.
is a certain heart and artistry that elevates the whole package, inviting you to peer into the deep American South through its folklore, nature, and culture. It might not be the most profound exploration of family life, but it's delivered in ways that feel authentic. From its striking art style to the evocative music that brings big story moments together, Hazel's journey is a captivating one, no matter where you're from.
They broke the IGN 7. They broke it. They got an 8. Are you kidding me with this game? Oh my gosh. I've seen enough of the game to know it's not an 8. It looked like, again, like the bosses and things like that, the setting. I think the design's nice. The story sounds absolutely like woke trash. It's woke garbage. Sweet Baby Inc. killed it. No one wants to play it. They would be buying the $50 version to play 5 days early. And they're not going to buy it. It's going to be horrible.
Editor Tom
Here we,
Marks
okay,
here.
so this is it right here. They're going to, let's see, the executive reviews editor, Tom Marks, and this is the reviewer right here, Michael. What? So how many? It's like 6 minutes.
We're here to talk about South of Midnight, give people a little bit more behind the scenes on you and your
This
reviewing
is so
tastes
strange.
and
Why are they
why
doing
you
this
want-
for this game? I really feel like IGN and Microsoft might be like, you know, little deal going on. Give it a little extra, push a little harder, push.
to review this game specifically. So let's
This
jump into
is
that because
strange.
you came to me. You had interest in reviewing South of Midnight. So what drew you to it?
Whoa, this guy asked to review it. Oh my god.
So I played the preview build of this game, and I've been keeping my eye on it in the lead up to release. But after playing it, I realized that there are so many layers to peel back on this one because it is so representative of Southern culture in the U.S. And I was born in Mississippi, so I have Southern roots. And you know,
You don't
I feel
sound
like
it.
in the review process. You don't just play a game and talk about whether the gameplay is good or not, or
This
if the
guy
story
feels
hits.
fucking seen in this.
You also want to give insight, and specifically, you know, when something is pulling from a part of your life, you know, you kind of want to be the one to review it, to peel those layers back and kind of communicate that to other people, whether it be people who share that culture or
So this dude's straight up saying, I have an invested interest in this game, and I want to fucking shill for it. That is what he's
on
saying.
the outside looking in and might be interested in learning about that culture. And I definitely
Wow.
got that out of South of Midnight.
This
And
says a
also
lot
just
about
like
the review.
The Southern folklore is such a rich tapestry of like storytelling in like real life. Granted, like we're talking about like supernatural beings, but the mythical creatures that are told through Southern folklore are so fascinating. And there's like I'm
They are
Filipino, by the
cool.
way, and like so there's a lot of like,
That's the good
crossover
part about the
between-
game.
Real, darling.
This is I am just kind of shocked.
Let's
At
talk
this
about the
interview.
mechanical side of things, the gameplay side of things.
I mean, they are really just showing their cards here, I feel. Like, yeah, we really had to push this game a little extra. Microsoft needed us to do a little extra. We're going to do a little review, 6 minutes real quick. Get that in there. Really talk about how great it is.
What are some other games in this genre, in this style, whatever you want to call it, gameplay-wise, that you really, really liked, that you think, like, man, if someone out there really liked these games, they probably should look into South
Even
of
like
Midnight.
Elden Ring.
I actually got a lot of familiar feelings playing South of Midnight as I did when I played Bayonetta Origins. The reason
Is
why
that
I
a
say
top-
that
yeah,
is because
that's like
both
a
these
top-down,
games are
right?
like very straightforward action adventure games. They
Okay.
they kind of funnel you through these beautiful environments to really give you a sense of place, but it's fairly linear. There's a lot to explore off the beaten path. There's secrets, there's items to collect, but it is a fairly linear path along the way. Even the feedback from combat, like the chunky moves that you do, and, like,
Chunky
when you
moves.
hit someone with a powerful hit, or you do like
It's
a final
clunky.
kill on an enemy,
Bro,
it has like it's felt so similar to that. And I loved Bayonetta Origins, by the way.
this one
I
doesn't
don't
look
think
clunky.
that you should go into this thinking you're playing like a platinum action game, like a core Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry necessarily. That's not what this game is. But something that's a little bit lighter on the action adventure is something that you would probably vibe with. Like if you're into that, you will definitely love South of Midnight. It keeps things very simple, but it executes it very well.
Very
On the
simple.
story front, I would
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I would suggest an indie game called Norco, which explores modern Southern culture in terms of like how capitalism has affected the region in some really dark ways, and
Oh,
how that
God.
affects individuals on the ground level. Or
This
something
guy
like,
loves to be
Where
seen,
the
you
Water
can
Tastes Like
tell.
Wine, which came out
Like,
a little
I need
while
to be
ago, and it's
seen.
And is there anything that didn't make it into your review, some small detail or some little thing that stood out that
That
just
we can
wasn't-
stick in your
it wasn't
review
quite
right
time
now?
for the review, but you want to shout out now?
Yeah. I mean, I always talk about music in games where the soundtrack is very important. I do so in my review here as well. But I wish I could take a moment in the review and like pull someone aside and play the soundtrack for them, because not only do I think it's good music, like
It's not. It's
again,
awful,
another
bro.
amalgamation of various influences. You got blues, you have bluegrass, you have American folk music. When you actually play the game and sit through like these story sequences where you let the music play out and you kind of get to sit with it,
Uh-huh.
that is something that's hard to communicate in text, and I try my best. I always do when I review like an RPG with a great soundtrack, like all the Persona
Dude, you
kits
glaze
that
the music just fine.
Tom is very familiar with.
The music's not
But
actually good, though. That's the
I
issue.
love the way this game uses music, and I touch on it, but you got to see it for yourself. This
So one thing that he really kind of skipped is when you're fighting, it will use music. Like as you're hitting something, you're like building up like the sound of your ancestors or whatever. But it creates this like hollow thunk where it's like boom, boom, boom. It's out of place. It's strange. It's awful. And they really didn't even show it. They didn't show the sound of the fights. They cut it out completely because it sucks. It makes it sound terrible. It was a huge thing that people hit on. It's like, what's with the sounds, bro?
Yeah, if you can get your hands on the soundtrack, definitely give it a listen.
No, don't.
Michael, thank you very much for chatting with us about this. We're going a
Terrible.
little bit deeper into the review about your reviewing tastes, all that sort of stuff. If you want more action games,
We don't want any more. We don't want any more. We don't want any more. No, thank you. So there you have it, the review from IGN. It just really seemed like the reviewer Michael was all about, I want to be seen. I am seen in the game. Let me review this game. He already had a vested interest in the game. Like, this was like not something he was given to review. He was like, I need to review that. Let me review the game. Like, this is ridiculous. And then that interview section at the end, like, oh my gosh, like, you could not make it more obvious that you want to glaze this game. And for what? At what point does IGN decide that we need to sell our integrity to Microsoft? Like, these companies, they want to matter. They want to be important. They should want their review scores to matter. And when you take a very average game with some really weak gameplay in it, all right, it might have some good gameplay, but it also has plenty of weak gameplay. It might have some good design, but it also has some pretty weak design. This creates a very average game. But they're here throwing an 8 on it and then taking a guy who asked, who may have begged, to be the reviewer for it and threw an 8 on top of it. Like, after glazing it up and down, gave it an 8. This is why IGN and these other companies, you can't listen to them. It's pretty much just content for us at this point because we know what's coming. This game leaves a lot to be desired, and it's already suffering on Steam on its pre-release. And again, I will say it, if people want a game, they will buy it. We'll see what the numbers look like later. Game Pass, of course, they're going to say they have millions of people have interacted with the game or whatever. It's all nonsense. I don't know how else I can go about it. Like, this is ridiculous. The actual gameplay just doesn't match the scores. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, do me a huge favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 70K this year. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. I'm out of here. Love me to peace. Bye, everybody.
He's owning every